the world is changing. I mean, we
Yes.
used to talk about, it's always changing, but now it's changing at speeds that we can't even keep up with.
That's right. Absolutely, Chuck. And thank you. It's a privilege to be on your podcast to talk about the topic of leadership. I had the rare privilege of working with some of the senior most leaders in the corporate sector, with a lot of political leaders, like the prime ministers and the ministers. What really prompted me to write this book was when you look at all these leaders, they've been in their roles, many of them, when they get to the top for 30 years, on an average 30 years. 30 years, uh, on an average, and you then get promoted to being a CEO. And in those roles, many times, and I'm just talking about the corporate world,
Hmm.
you're working very hard, you are following the rules of the organization, you are doing your best to shine in an environment which is artificially controlled. And when you get to becoming the leader of the organization, you spend 30 years in that environment. And when the world is changing so fast, it's changing faster than we can even comprehend. Someone was saying that we are now creating in a AI agent for a role every 2.5 days. In every 2.5 days,
Wow.
we are seeing a bot aimed at replacing human skill to a significant extent, not entirely, but significant. So the world is changing so fast. So I asked this question: a politician, when they get to minister or prime minister, spend many years being a political leader. A corporate leader spends many years in that environment. Academic leaders are exactly the same. What kind of leadership is needed now to basically deal with so much of change, so much of adversity, and what is needed other than everybody talks about resilience, everybody talks about adaptability, everybody talks about growth mindset, and we have had a lot of leadership gurus, come up with their own courses and own programs. But I really got in and I said, okay, these environments which I'm exposed to, especially very large organizations, what kind of leadership is needed? And that's what led me to write this book.
Mm. Yeah, the word that you use as far as like the artificial environment and being controlled, if you've become a CEO or whatever it might be for many years, I look at that as a honeycomb. But like you said, the CEO, they have their mindset. They an old way of thinking. Is that that might be the wrong thing for me to say, the old way of thinking, but
Yeah, outdated
uh,
thinking for sure,
yeah.
because their primary objective is profitability,
Mm.
and also, if it's a publicly listed company, how the stock price is going, and both of them are interrelated. And in this kind of a situation, they often go to what they've learned over the last 30 years when they were a CEO. When the demand is high, you increase your staff intake, and when the demand is low, you cut drastically. That's the reason why we are now seeing all around the world, in professional services, in banking, in technology, people are cutting staff right, left, and center. And the reason why people are cutting those staff right, left, and center is that they did not really think about tomorrow and the day after.
Mm.
They've always been thinking about today. So my book is all about how can traditional leadership not only focus on what we need to do today. Profit is very important, share price is very important, all those are important. But also, how can they embrace new leadership principles and behaviors to drive change and growth for tomorrow, sustainability of the organizations for tomorrow, so that we are not in this challenge where, we just said we just heard Ernst and Young, one of the largest professional services, is getting rid of some of the top partners and executive they have. We've heard the same thing about another, KPMG, and then before that we heard about. So this is all going on. People say, "Oh, this is normal. This is what happens in the business." Sorry, getting rid of large number of people is not normal. And from that perspective, what I've done is I've offered practical strategies to navigate and lead in a increasingly dynamic and uncertain world, business world. Uh, Encouraged top leaders, not people in the middle, top leaders at the C-suite level, at the board level, to think outside the box and break through self-imposed barriers. Or we've always done this way. We're going to do this for the next round. No, challenge yourself and help leaders understand the importance of fostering a culture of innovation and empowerment. And we've got so many people, especially large organizations. The real power of the organization is in the middle and the lower parts of the organization. Top people are so busy running the business, attending meetings, that they really don't have the time to think what the future looks like. So that's one. And challenge leaders. And the last but not least, one of the objectives I wanted to achieve with this book is challenge leaders to continuously learn and evolve and foster a growth mindset, embrace lifelong learning. Now, I have to tell you, Chuck, I've been in executive leadership positions. There are many others. It is easier said than done. When your day is so packed with all the meetings, you're traveling international. I had a business, 9 countries, and before that, I was at KPMG. I was a CEO of a global business. You're always on the plane. So the time to learn and evolve as a leader is, it didn't matter that much before, but now it is pivotal for that leader, any leader, to be successful. So those are some of the reasons why I've written this book.
Can we get into a little bit of the psychology of why it is so difficult, it seems like, for leaders to change? Like you said, I know that you mentioned people who are in leadership positions, management, they're busy running a business for profit or whatever it might be, or even on a personal level, you find that you're busy doing the daily necessity things. So what's the psychology behind why it is so difficult to make that change?
Yeah, great point, Chuck. And based on my own observations, the psychology falls into different categories. So a company that has been very successful many years, why change? We've always done things this way. This is our culture. This is our heritage. Why change? All right. So especially those who are long-term leaders who have just worked in the same organization and gradually risen to the top, they don't want any change. They have learned something, they've evolved in that ecosystem, the businesses that they're doing have done extremely well in the past. So the first and foremost reason is, why change when nothing is broken? Okay?
Yeah.
Which means we're already doing everything right, we're making the profit, because profit is often the measure. So why change? The second reason why people don't change is the moment you have a senior leadership title, you pack your diary with so many meetings and so many, and I've seen this happen in my own life, so many, everybody invites you, you are an important person, you're a spokesperson, you're in the media, you're in the internal meetings, you're in the board meetings. You don't really have time to learn. So and then you go through the pressures of running a global business, which are external pressures like stock price going down or some risk issue or regulators jumping on your back and trying to give advice on what needs to be done, imposing penalties. So those problems coming out of the door, from the door, outside the door, into the organization, they consume you. That's the third reason. The first one is why change when things are fine? The second one is no time because I'm already busy. Third thing is consumed by ad hoc issues that come through the door. And the fourth one is actually a pseudo one. Oh, I'm doing this leadership program with Harvard, or I'm doing this leadership program for Stanford. And, if I just attend this program, I'm taken care of. Again, programs are programs unless you implement what you've learned, and you never learn. So those are predominantly the issues at the leadership level, in my opinion. And what happens is, Chuck, because those leaders are not evolving, they're actually putting the entire organization and the workforce that is working in that organization at risk. So the large scale downsizing, which we are regularly reading about in some industries, is a direct implication of the leaders running those businesses not evolving fast enough to be able to manage the shift in the market and deal with emerging trends with clients and others. So yeah, that's again why I wrote the book. And it's a book of a contrarian. And I was just saying to someone yesterday that my entire life, since I've been a graduate intern, I have been a contrarian. My first boss was from IBM, and he was very accomplished. And he said to me, "If you keep asking questions and if you have a contrarian view, you're not going to go very far in your career." And I said, "Well, I don't think that is the case." And every single role that I have, my contrarian views have been respected, adopted, embraced, supported by the organizations that I've worked for, and that has led to overall progress. And I've also built teams that think very differently to rest of the people. So, again, a key message in my book is that Gallup said 3% in out of every 100 challenge the status quo. And I'm saying, if you're a leader, you need to be much more than in that 3% bracket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kumar, it's everything that you said as far as the challenges go and why psychologically we don't make that change as leaders. It kind of leads right down to I think we've gotten to the point where we are comfortable with good enough what we have, and we don't want to make that change. That's one of them. At least that's how I look at things. Is like you said, we always say, if it's not broke, why fix it? Well, if you want to progress, I think you would be looking for new ways or new things to do. And like I said, especially managing people in today's day and age, especially with AI out there and the younger group of people coming up. So if I've been in the company for 20 years, I'm in senior management, I've got younger people coming in. I need to be able to communicate and work with the younger generation and the way they're thinking.
Absolutely. The younger generation, and Chuck, something that we are not used to and never heard of is digital workforce.
Mm-hmm.
The AI agents. In fact, today
Yes.
I was involved in a conversation with a startup that the mission of that startup is one person, 1 billion. And their aspiration is, in the future, $1 billion company can be just run by one person with the help of agentic AI. Now that's very aspirational, and some may say, well, may not happen. But you can just think, you can really see how the world is evolving. So the new skill is not only work with humans, but also work with AI-enabled agents to be able to then productively take the world forward and the organizations forward.
Yeah, I think we're fearing that too much, and we're saying we want to protect our jobs rather than learning the ways of using and working um, with AI, with the digital or within the digital world. I know younger people, not necessarily just younger people, but a lot of people are using it as a um, model to create something, and they're using it in a creative way rather than a, I don't know what your word to use. I don't want to say rather than using it in a beneficial way, but I do find that a lot of people have a difficult time of um, allowing that digital world in to work with it to better the
Yeah,
company or
yeah, yeah,
themselves.
yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head. We have all this innovation happening, predominantly driven by a lot of younger people, but there are also people in their 50s and 60s who are very successful startup founders and entrepreneurs. Um, that they are creating, inventing new things, and that's happening at a phenomenal pace. And then we have all these organizations, big monolithic organizations who are all used to going in a certain way for the last 50 years. Bringing those together is going to be the most challenging as well as rewarding opportunity. And so, not everybody understands how to take all this that is happening in the innovation world, which I, all this Silicon Valley and even Austin, everywhere as well, uh, and this traditional business. How do you bring it together? And that requires very different kind of leadership. It requires a
Yeah.
leadership that people need to be very open and yeah, think differently.
When you say it and put it that way, it's I'm thinking it is interesting how I know some larger companies where the individuals within the company are using the artificial intelligence to help them complete their tasks to become a better worker.
Yeah,
But the company is not using that digital world or AI intelligence to help uh, the the company within the company.
yeah.
If that's making any sense, I don't know if
It
that is or
doesn't make
not.
sense. And in fact, I know of a company that actually wanted to ban these
Mm.
new AI models, whether it is Claude or ChatGPT, and because they felt, oh, we can't manage it. There's a lot of risk, and so I said to the CEO, I said that's really dumb. You think your staff won't have this on their iPhones? You
Right.
know, you think they will listen to you? They will use those engines in their private time or whatever it is. So yeah, so there is still that kind of thinking, which is not, if you don't understand it, stop it. Again, that is just seriously going to jeopardize the future of the organizations because somebody else will embrace those new tools, new solutions, new way of thinking, and race far ahead of this other team, other group, other set of companies that are still thinking about, uh, you know. Um, I heard somebody, when I talk to some of the board chair and the board directors and the CEOs and executive, I said, "Why are you not moving fast enough?" And this common expression used to be, don't want to be the bleeding edge. We even don't want to be the leading edge. We will just follow somebody who has done it, and I'm pretty sure we'll have some time, 3 4 years, to just follow somebody who's already a leader or whatever it is. We don't have 3 4 years in our business cycles to catch up to. If you're not on the bus right now with some of these ways of changing, not only embracing technology, dealing with a variety of other issues that have prompted me to write this book, and the need for uh, different kind of leaders, like dealing with geopolitical tensions. If you're a political leader, how do you deal with them?
Yeah.
Okay, these requires a very different kind of leadership. Remote work. Remote work has not disappeared, even though there's the mandating. Companies are mandating. Well, still, it'll live forever, and people will go and work where remote work is allowed. And again, companies are facing attrition because they're mandating remote work. Climate change is not gone. Just because someone has said, oh, climate change is not a priority, it's not going away anywhere. Our climate is getting impacted. Sustainability is a major issue. It will remain. And demographic shifts are happening. You mentioned younger people are a lot more savvy in using technology because they grew up, unlike some of the older folks like me. You're pretty young, Chuck, who, so they use quite technology. They use very intuitively as they go, and and mental well-being is becoming a major issue. So again, it was never an issue before COVID. It was probably never recognized. Now becoming a major issue. Requires a different kind of leadership to manage that mental well-being of people in the organization. And last but not least, there are two other things. You know, significant amount of misinformation, Facebook,
Yes.
whatever platforms you're reading, and they're so deep fakes, so they're all so real that you don't know what the reality is. So again, what kind of leadership can you have in those situations? And again, increased privacy and cyber risk. So these are all putting us as leaders in a very different environment to when we started our career. And as a result of that, we need to fundamentally change the way we lead. And that's what my book is all about.
Yeah, just to mention your book one more time, it's called Lead to Disrupt: Seven Keys to Success in the Changing World. And as we've been saying, this world is changing at a lightning fast pace that is sometimes challenging for many of us, I think, to keep up with. We catch up, and then by that time, that was yesterday. Today's another day, and we have something else that's new. Uh, was there one or maybe a couple things that you could say to those in leadership roles within companies, small or large, what they can do to challenge themselves to make that change, to keep up?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, based on my own experience, by the way, I feel any leader should not hesitate being a contrarian. It is not good for the team if there is something you can say which is actually going to take the organization forward. And I think the leaders at the top must ensure that they are not promoting just the yes people, people who are complying to their views. So some of the things I'm going to say is any leader in this new era needs to learn how to be a contrarian, how to have dissenting views from the conventional wisdom, learn to challenge, thrive, gain more experience and knowledge, and then show resilience. So these are some of the things. So what I've said, Chuck, is that every leader needs 7 traits to be effective in this new world. So if you're okay, I'm going to share those 7 traits, and I've
Thank you.
written a chapter on each one of them, and I've given examples. So, and again, this is my personal philosophy, and it served me quite well. So, it's the proof is in the pudding, and it's based on experience. I'm not a leadership guru. I'm not very eloquent when I stand up on stages and talk about other things, but this is from practical examples of my life. And the first and foremost is develop a disruptive mindset. That means, when things are happening in a certain way for a long time, and they are critical for the world's success, the business success, the community success, a leader should be able to say, hey, we've done this for a very long time. Is there a way we can change this? And how fast can we change it? And a great example is Elon Musk. There's a lot of criticism because Elon is involved in, government activities and other things. But being in Austin, Elon is a disruptive leader. He fundamentally changed the paradigm around what a car could be. Introduction of EV batteries in the car. It basically transformed the industry. He's transformed the space industry, fundamentally transformed the space industry what would take billions of dollars to put something in the space, he has done it fraction of a cost, 1/10 or 1/15 of the cost. So he's fundamentally changed that. He's fundamentally changed what the battery industry or solar power industry looks like. So he's created a huge, because of his disruptive nature, he's created a huge impact. So he's a great example of disruptive mindset. You don't need to agree with everything he says. You don't need to agree with his political views. But again, you can see that as an example. And I read his 1,000-page book. It's quite interesting. Isaac Walterson is his biography. So I read that book. The second one is having a disruptive higher purpose. You've got to be able to say, hey, whatever I'm doing is not simply looking after myself. My disruptive higher purpose when I took my previous role and my startup got sold and I got into this larger organization and industry, which is called architecture, engineering, and construction, a $200 billion industry. So my disruptive higher purpose was, through the work I'm going to do with my team, we are permanently going to change the way the industry operates for the better. And we achieved that vision last year in February when we were rated #1 digital transformation agency across the whole industry. The third one is getting outside the comfort zone and challenging your own inertia. Very, very important. People love the comfort zone, and it's very difficult to get out. It's a challenge for me either. I mean, some things are going well, it's comfortable. You're already working very hard. Why get out? So getting out of comfort zone, overcoming the inertia. The next one, which I have said to the leaders, is you've got to build disruptive relationships, or build relationships that foster disruptive thinking. If you surround yourself with yes men and women all the time, there won't be any disruptive thinking going on. And whatever, the highest paid person in the organization, the hippo says, that's what everybody else will believe. And many organizations, Chuck, in this stone age are still run that way. Very autocratic and very dictatorial. They're successful, they're doing well, but they're not fostering disruptive thinking. So that's the fourth thing, the fourth trait I've suggested. Disrupt the status quo. So, if people say, this is always the way we have done, ask why. Oh, we've done this for the last 30 years. Ask why. And what has happened is when I have been able to ask respectfully those questions of why we keep doing the same thing the same way again and again. Organizations that have embraced that disruption of status quo had huge productivity increase, huge benefit in they were able to leap forward. So again, that's another trait. And last two are dealing with complacency and mental fragility. And that means in this stone age, we already spoke about mental well-being. There's so much of pressure, so many things acting on us. You got to remain mentally resilient. And the last one is, if you're a leader, you got to be accountable to your stakeholders, and it's a radical accountability. And when I say radical accountability, you got to go out of the way to explain to your followers, your stakeholders, why you're doing what you're doing, and what the outcome has been. Not everybody would agree with you. You got to be able to take feedback. I mean, I used to have sessions called radical candor with respect. That means I go to one of my stakeholders and say, hey, thank you for being very nice. It's okay, you can tell us what we've done well in 2 minutes, but the next half an hour we're going to talk to you about where we can improve, what we can change, what we can do differently. And even at a personal level, we've been interacting for the last 3 months. What do you think I can change? How do I come across? So it takes a lot of humility at the leadership level to be able to ask those questions, but that's the new world. Um, yeah, so there's
Yeah,
seven traits.
I like what you said about use humility in this. The one thing that comes to mind is, and I know we've heard this before, is change doesn't come easy,
Yes,
but with change there can be great success. So and there's always going to be some sort of risk, but I think oftentimes the reward outweighs that risk. So
yeah, yeah,
I'd say for people to keep that in mind. And again, this goes for both business leadership role and even in that individual role, because I look at myself and I think people should maybe look at themselves as they are the CEOs. I've heard this many times before. You're CEO of your own self. So
absolutely.
you also
Yeah,
you have to come
absolutely,
up
absolutely.
have that mind, like you were saying, that word mindset. You need to change that mindset, whatever it is and whatever role it is that you are playing, but you are yourself a CEO, whether it's yourself or a company. So this is a fascinating topic, because I think there's a lot of psychology that goes into it, a lot of practical use. Like we were talking about, there's 7 essential roles, or not roles, but 7 essential um, keys to success. It's just get your mind wrapped around making that change.
Yeah, and it's simply not theoretical. I have used multiple examples of my life in many organizations with clients in public and political situations and other forums to say how I have applied these principles and the tangible success we have achieved as well as the intangible success we have achieved with people and others. So yeah, I think I don't have all the answers. I have not cracked the code on perfect leadership, but I do believe that I have raised some important aspects in my book that if the leaders take it seriously, they will not only evolve themselves as leaders, but they will also future proof their organizations.
Yes.
And so that's the motivation.
Well, Kumar Parakala, where can folks go to find your book, Lead to Disrupt: 7 Keys to Success in the Changing World?
Chuck, thank you. The book is available on major platforms. Amazon is the fastest, quickest way. Barnes and Nobles, Kobo, all other platforms. It's available,
Okay.
but Amazon is pretty fast to deliver in a couple of days, 2 3 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, I do have one last question, if you don't mind me asking, and this is based around AI and your thoughts of the future of mankind and artificial intelligence, whether it be,
Yeah.
we used to talk about general AI, and then, generative was creating something creative. And now we're talking general, where it's going to be able to do everything for you.
Artificial general intelligence. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So AI has been there for 70 years, Chuck,
Mm-hmm.
50s. And I did my master's thesis was related to cognitive behavior and computers and all, which we call AI in early 90s. But the impact, the revolutionary impact has only started happening in the last 3 years since ChatGPT was released and other things. And the pace at which these models are learning based on the data is just mind-boggling. We came from a situation where we were talking about very generic things to now we're talking about specialists. So the AI agent for law can do a better job than some of the mid-level and junior level lawyers. Medical, there are AI agents for medical, healthcare and other things. There are AI agents for looking at project management. There are AI agents for other areas. So suddenly the intelligence, the machine is more intelligent than the human being, one human being. The machines are becoming more and more intelligent. And when the hypothesis is when the machines become more and more intelligent, then they will have their own mechanism to create new intelligence, which is AGI, okay, generative intelligence. Some people say that's 30 years away, and some people say we are already there. Next 2-3 years, we'll see AGI. So, in that environment, what is the role of a leader? What is the role of people? And I was very fortunate to participate in a discussion at a conference, the South by Southwest conference, which we had in Austin, which attracts more than 10,000 people. And humanness plays a fundamental role in that. So, how do you bring humanness, human centricity, in a very fast developing, evolving landscape of these AI, agentic AI scenarios? So, from my point of view, that's completely a new space, and we discussed about what should be the values, what should be the expectations of a leader, what should because the reality is in olden days, last 500, 600, 700, maybe even more than 1,000. The religion was setting the foundation for the values that the society follows. Those religions are all getting fragmented because people are now more focused on this new wisdom that is coming out. And so how would the society, what are the guardrails of the society to operate? What are the guardrails for organizations to ethically use AI? How do people flourish, have fulfilling careers, and continue to remain happy and achieve their life's mission? Things. These are all very fundamental questions we are asking probably for the first time in the last 100 years. And this is a fascinating space, and I'm very excited to continue to engage in this conversation with my industry peers.
Well, you just opened up my mind to think of something that would be frightening in a way with AI, where it will become a religion,
Yeah,
where it is so intelligent and so fast that there will be a religion based around it to ask, what is it that I do today?
yeah.
Where is it that I go? And then we begin to follow.
Yes, yes, yes. And they will guide every step, everything since we get up in the
Yeah.
morning to when we go to bed at night. We will be very dependent on these. And the greater the dependency, the greater will be the prosperity of the companies who are creating this. And that's the rush. So next 5 years will be very fascinating. I do believe that AGI is a reality. 5-10 years it will happen, and we as the human race need to, for the first time, find our place in such an advanced world full of machines, and that's a leadership responsibility to define the role we as human beings are going to play in the very fastly evolving landscape, the business or political or whatever you want to call it.
Well, this could be another conversation for another day because there's so much to it and it changes all the time. Kumar, thank you very much for the insights and becoming that better leader and giving us the 7 key points to become successful in that leadership role. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you, and I wish you the very best, and we'll talk again.